What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the iProv vlog. I'm Jordan Smith, VP of Sales and Marketing with iProv, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, boss, friend, confidant. I was going to throw in another one, but then it just got weird. Patrick Laughlin, our COO. What's up, Pat?
What's up, Joe? How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about our topic today. I'm always excited about our topics, but we've touched on this one a little bit. As we do more of these, we start to dive in a little bit deeper. We talk about stuff and say, hey, this really belongs on its own. And also from you. So this specific topic was actually a suggestion from somebody who's watched a couple of these. So keep them coming. We love these suggestions. And this is the reason we're talking about this topic specifically, which is how to motivate your team. And I know this is a big deal, especially now that some offices are still remote. Some are inviting people, some are having people work back as office. Some are split. So making sure that you keep that proper motivation, I know, is a tough thing for a lot of employers right now.
Well, and even more specific, this was a leader that reached out to us and asked, how do I motivate my team when they just hit the wall? And I think right now, that is an incredibly hard question to answer, but an incredibly important one to study, I think that right now when you're not really, when you're, I read a tweet the other day, it was something like, we're not working from home, we're living at work. And I think that it's really important to sort of acknowledge that and make sure that that is not happening with your team. Because, burnout is a real thing, and it, just having one person sort of experiencing burnout on your team can drastically affect productivity. But once it sort of takes hold and spreads, it's like kudzu. You just almost can't kill it, right? Yeah. And what's really damaging about it is burnout takes like your A players, your superstars, and just turns them into slugs. And the truth is, that's what's really scary is your A players are the ones that are going to suffer burnout, and it's up to you to make sure that they are, sort of managing their time in a way that they don't experience burnout. I mean, that's really your job. So let's talk about what some of those signs of hitting the wall or burnout are, Joe.
Yeah. So we, during this, we want to talk one kind of what are some of those signs? Two, what are some tactical things that you can do? And then just some general kind of do's and don'ts that we follow a lot whenever, just to prevent burnout as well. Because, sometimes once you get to that point, we've all had employees like this, and we've all probably been in that situation where that sometimes you're just past the point of no return. So just talk about some prevention measures too. So let's start off by just talking about kind of what are the signs of burnout that you typically see?
Well, my experience, it's you sort of get a decrease in productivity, and the quality of the work really starts to suffer. And if you're paying attention, or you have some way to measure this, you're going to notice it faster than if you're not paying attention, right? So a lot of times employees don't like productivity measures. They feel like that's what they're going to be, fired for. The truth is, productivity measures for managers and for leaders are really just to make sure that we are not overdoing it, right? For hard charging A players, if they're hiring A players, they have to sort of make sure that they're pumping the brakes every once in a while, because you can't be at 100% throttle and expect your machine to survive for very long. Disengagement is another important one to look at. If you've had somebody that was always sort of the hub of the team that is now sort of staying away from sort of team activities, that's a pretty good sign that they're not that they're checked out or that they're burned up. And so I think it's really important to figure out, why isn't this person excited? Why aren't they engaged? It may have nothing to do with work even. But that's a pretty good sign that somebody's burned out. And along with that, I think cynicism and complaining, especially if that's not their normal, sort of mode of operation. Some people are just cynical, and some people like to complain. It's like a sport to them. And sometimes those people are, rock stars, and you have to put up with it, or you have to at least build that personality into the sort of personality profile of your team. I personally am not a big fan of complainers in general, but if you start to see an increase in those two things, it's a pretty good sign that that person has hit the wall and they need a little break, or they need to sort of take a step back. So those are some pretty good signs. And if you're paying attention and really know your team, if you've invested in building a relationship with your people, you should pick up on those signs pretty quickly.
Yep. So those are great signs to look out for. So once you start to see some of those traits, or even if there's been somebody that's typically, when we're talking about burnout, it's an employee that's been there for a little bit. You typically know what type of personality they are. So even just seeing things that are opposite of what you're accustomed to sometimes is a sign. So some different things you can do. Pat mentioned something. Sometimes these traits, they're not necessarily maybe, job related. Could be something in personal life. So digging a little bit deeper. If you kind of want some tactical things, okay, there are a couple of these signs. What we found helpful is just try to understand the motivation, but behind that atypical behavior. Try to, just be a person.
Yeah.
Right? Just be empathetic. Just hey, Jordan, I've just noticed something's a little bit off. Is there anything going on, or do you want to talk about anything, or do you need some time, or let's just have a conversation, but be a person. Find a way to relate to them and dig in a little bit deeper.
I think it's also important to really talk about balance. And balance is one of those sort of loaded words. Some people like it a lot, some people don't. But I do think, that when you notice that burnout's happening, it is your job as a leader to help that person get back into balance. And sometimes, you have to almost force it, right? You have to say, hey, listen, I want your phone turned off at 6 p.m. And I don't want to see emails coming from you in the middle of the night. I'm telling you now, you're going to take a couple of days next week. It's not if you can, you're going to take, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. And if I see you answering emails, we're going to have a disciplinary discussion, because your health and your well-being is more important than whatever it is that's in your inbox. And I think that's, as leaders, you can even set it up to where if they don't have a place where they can go, there's nothing that says you can't provide a place for them to go.
Yep.
That's
especially, you talked about A players, typically hire A players. Those people sometimes don't even see that they're getting burned out until it's too late. So oftentimes as a leader, as somebody who hopefully knows them pretty well at this point, you're going to notice those things before they do. So I think that's super important. Say, hey, listen, I went ahead and put down some time on your calendar, Airbnb'd you a cabin for you and the husband, the wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, you and the dog, whatever the case may be. Go enjoy yourself this weekend. I think is important. So not only kind of talking about balance, but sometimes taking that initiative and saying, hey, I booked you a fishing trip, go, don't worry about it. And the last thing too, kind of switching things up. Sometimes it's just, they get stuck in what they're doing. So kind of building in a variation in types of projects, or giving them something new to do, or just switching things up a little bit can make a world of difference. Maybe they're not burnout specifically with the organization or their workload. Maybe it's just they're bored, We've all either been that kid in class or known one that was just disengaged back in the day in school. And it wasn't because they weren't smart or they weren't intelligent. They weren't engaged because they were bored. They were just so far ahead of everybody else in the class. So as a leader, take a step back and saying, is so-and-so just above what I've got them doing? And the best way to find that out is give them a little bit of variation. Find some projects that they're passionate about even. Again, be a person, have a conversation with them. before you enact any of these things, but just try switching up what they're doing and what you're giving them day to day.
Well, and I think that the other thing that we need to talk about too is, it is really easy as a leader to take on all of these, your team's emotions, right? And to take on your team's suffering if they are suffering. And you can't be an effective leader and manage burnout if you yourself are burned out. So I think that sort of self-care from a leadership perspective is really, really important. I think that, I've said before, I'm not a big fan of the family analogy when it comes to the workplace, but in a lot of ways, the team you lead will model your behavior. So if you are, burning the candle at both ends, if you're not taking care of your physical and mental well-being, your team will pick up on those cues and they'll follow that lead instead of the lead that you want them to follow. And so I think it's really important that we as leaders demonstrate the same sorts of things that we want our employees to be doing. So, don't neglect your health and well-being, and take good care of yourself, and share what you're doing to manage stress or to create variety for yourself, because there are lots of tasks in leadership that are boring. Don't get bogged down in negativity. Once again, you don't want to hide what you're authentically feeling. You want to bring your best self to work, but sometimes it's important that you remain positive even if the sort of ship is sinking around you. I think that the other thing you can't do is you can't blame yourself for burnout. In a lot of ways, modern work is sort of built to burn people out. It's your job to engineer it not to. But if it does happen, you can't take on all the blame yourself, because that is a recipe for a spiraling disaster. So just a few more tips to sort of make sure that you're leading from the right place, so that you can help your team get out of bad situations.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, especially for the people who are watching or listening to this message, which is, at the end of the day, it starts with yourself. You're the one who's going to set the example. Whether we like to believe it or not, we are all emotional sponges. So if you come in and you're burnout, well, guess what? That's going to translate to your team. If you work yourself to the bone, both ends of the candle, never take vacation, never take a break, your team's going to inherit that type of work ethic. And if that's the type of team you want, that's fine. Just realize that you're going to deal with a lot of burnout. If you want an environment where you're not consistently churning and burning, then take those things into consideration too, and figuring out what type of example you're setting for your employees.
Yeah.
So let us know out there. Leave us a comment, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this. How do you make sure that you're not burnt out? What individual tactics did we miss, or what are different things that you do to make sure that either you prevent burnout, or once you see it, you make sure that you try to rectify the situation. We'd love to hear from you. As always, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all the socials, especially if we earned it. And until next time, thanks, Pat.
Thanks,
Peace,
Joe.
peace.